Good morning, everybody. The 19th on Monday. Markets down pretty considerably overnight, and we had a lot of gamma expire on Friday. So there is often, after a large gamma expiration, a large amount of volatility that follows because people aren't hedged. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. So if we come to the charts, you can see here in the E-mini, pretty considerable drop, and they are beating out that July 8th weakness. I mean, far and away. So this is very, very negative action that we've been getting here over the past week or so. So we got this new target down around 41.20 or so. Probably take a few days to get there, but I mean, I don't see what would stop them if they decide to go for it. So that is them. And then the treasuries continue to push higher. So their treasuries continue to be saying like something's up. But we come back over here. Oops, here, right? I mean, look, we're getting, remember that this period right here was like, oh man, nothing ever happens in yields. Is it ever going to go away? Yada, 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 yada. So for yields to be retreating like this, and now up above 134.5 or so. Oh, actually, it's not and a half. It's 1/2. But and they're above the 200-day moving average. Like that's a little scary to me. Is how I should put that. I'm starting to get concerned. Markets telling us something is up. Oil is down, so they had an impromptu OPEC meeting, and it sounds like they are going to increase the baselines for everybody. They decided, okay, actually, I guess that's fair. So it's negative in the short term, and you see oil playing this out. But in the long term, it's probably positive because the OPEC agreement remains. So gold and silver taking a little bit of a dive again here. I tell you what, gold has just been toying with that 1800 area for such a long time. But look at silver. Silver is just getting decimated. So like the whole reflation trade is just completely falling apart. And copper also. I mean, when copper falls like that, that's not what you want to see, is it? And coming over to the dollar, also up. So man, I came in here, I was like, I expected today, Monday, to be a bit of a downer day, but I'm a little surprised now going through all of the charts, just how negative the entire macro complex seems to be. Gus Magellan, I don't know if this could be the news, but it seems like the COVID cases spiked and vaccination level is stuck. Okay, so this is interesting to me. And I think you're right that is a major component. I think it's more than just that though, Gus. I mean, I don't think what's going on is probably any one piece of news. I don't see a move that happened like all at once that kind of suggests an informed trading event, just very one-way directional movement. So, oh, by the way, do we have news today? I should probably check on that first before I do anything and turn the robot on. Okay. Hold on. My nose sure itches. Okay. And okay. Oh, no. Don't use that for your data. What are you doing? Ninja Trader? What are you doing? Let's see here. Market data, Preferred connections, historical and real time. Oh, well, why is it doing that then? Well, don't know what to do. I do get, by the way, remember we were saying that the little slip thing, I was like, maybe it doesn't work on CQ. No, it does. It just was less common during the period we were looking at. Okay, so anyways, interesting to me, the difference between countries with coronavirus cases, because the data that I'm seeing lately, and there was a story about this on Zero Hedge, but I was noticing this well before that Zero Hedge story. The places that were considered to be irresponsible, let's say, in how they handled the pandemic, for instance, my state, Utah, are doing really well now with this Delta variant. And the places that were the most strict, the most locked down, are having problems and are locking down again. So at first I thought, oh, well, they're just locking down because that's like what they're prone to do and they're being dumb, right? But now I'm starting to see that these places, yeah, Uzi says the more people that were vaccinated, the higher the cases. So like we're kind of there's this suggestion out there. I think it's way too early to be saying something like this. Like this is almost in the realm of, you know, you can't say it on YouTube, but I think we're okay because we're trying to figure out the facts here. But it seems to me that like the immunity that you get from being vaccinated is maybe not as good as we thought. And I mean, because the vaccines were pushed out so quickly, I suppose that there's a higher chance that we missed something. No, Ozzy says the more people vaccinated, the higher the cases. Well, that's what he was saying. I suspect though that there could be some things about the numbers that could kind of screw around with that, you know? Areas with higher vaccination rates will have higher variant case rates. Are you suggesting that if you're vaccinated, that if you actually do catch it, that it's more likely to be a variant and therefore you spread the variant more readily? Is that what you're kind of suggesting? A strong buy right there in the treasuries, by the way. Do you have a lot of clients for your indicators? We have a few subscribers, but I don't have as many as I would like, to be honest. So we have like 5 or 6 people that are doing the monthly subscription for it, which is okay. Our goal was to get to 10, so not quite there. We're vaccinating in the middle of a pandemic, essentially sending the virus into evolutionary hyperdrive. I don't know why people suddenly have a problem understanding this, but whatever. Well, I mean, that's not something that I had heard before. Like, so you seem to be making a more a claim that sounds like you have empirical evidence to back that. Like, do you have a study that shows that for viruses that a higher, like with the cold, for instance, that areas that have a higher vaccination rate against the cold has more mutations? That's because people vaccinated think they're free and not taking consideration they can become indeed infected. Probably you can still become infected, but like that's the whole, I don't know, man. This the whole thing that I said from the beginning, right? And I guess it wasn't really an evidence-based prediction or anything like that, but the claim was everybody's going to catch it sooner or later. Maybe it's better to just get it over with, you know? Like, oh, that was kind of always my take. I think that we did that in Utah. Like, we delayed things to give ourselves time to flatten the curve, and then we did have precautions afterwards, but we didn't pull all the restrictions immediately. But and then we did everything we could to get people vaccinated. But then also the thing that's different, really different, is that we opened things up earlier. So Utah, it has a high vaccination rate, but it also had a high case rate altogether. And so the theoretical combined vaccination plus natural immunity level in Utah is really high. What do you think about the crypto market? I'm a little concerned about the crypto market, to be honest with you. They just continue to sit there right on the edge. Uzi says Pfizer knows this, J&J knows this, Moderna knows this. I don't know if they do, Uzi. I don't think that that's what they believe, to be honest. I think that they believed that they were going to come out with the vaccines, that they were going to get like 95% of people to take it, and that that would be enough to build so much herd immunity that it basically died out. The vaccine is just a question of if we get it, the symptoms will not be severe, i.e. getting to the ICU or worse, dying from it. Yeah, but most people don't get that reaction. Do you follow? So I wouldn't say I follow, but I certainly read so much financial news media that when Tom Lee starts talking, I'm usually aware of it, but I don't think there is any efficacy to the predictions that Tom Lee makes. But here's the thing with the cryptocurrency market. We have now for several weeks not had a single tether print, and where has price gone? Sideways to down. And we're entering into what appears to be a very bearish period in traditional markets. And because Bitcoin has been acting as a risk asset, I think that the fundamentals at the moment are pointed down on Bitcoin. And my own metrics suggest that there are still a lot of long positions that could be washed out. And so I believe it is possible that we could see a move in Bitcoin from 20K, like below 20K, which would be below the price level where this like breakout really initially occurred. And that would be like a really difficult technical loss for a lot of Bitcoin followers. So I'm very concerned about the Bitcoin market right now. But I shouldn't call that as like a prediction for any kind of short-term action. I'm just listing out the current market conditions and possibilities. I have seen Coding Jesus' channel, yeah. He's a very different channel though, so 34% of Pfizer's revenue was from the COVID vaccine. The thing that's so interesting about it, well, not so. Why do I just want to be like, this is interesting, but do you remember a couple of weeks ago, they were all talking about the booster shots. Like all of the companies were saying we should have booster shots, but then all of the governments were like, probably we're okay. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm not convinced that this is all just the coronavirus. Like I look at it, the Delta variant cases are rising. I don't see anything at the moment that suggests to me like dire straits panic. Certainly not in the United States, okay? I don't see anything that suggests that in the United States we're going to start seeing new selling, right? Or new lockdowns, rather. But what I do see in the United States is just the larger overall macro setup seems to be negative. So like, and it's all of these little things that we've been following for a long time, and that we were kind of concerned about the negative impact that they could have on the economy. But when we were talking about it, we were always talking about inflation, right? I was concerned about inflation. I had silver as an inflation hedge, which maybe it's a long past time for me to dump. I don't know. But what's happening now? Well, we got that asset inflation, and it seems to be affecting demand. It seems to be negatively affecting demand. So it's almost like there's a limit to the impact that transitory inflation can have, because if it's really from transitory factors, then those factors affect the demand and supply of that asset in a way such that it can't stay inflationary for very long. And it, in fact, turns around and becomes a deflationary pressure. Like, because that's what was the story that we were getting last week, right? So they're saying, well, now people aren't going to buy things and it's going to hurt the economy. Yeah. It's interesting. Of course, this could just be post gamma expiration volatility, and we're about to recover it all and go right back up to all-time highs for all I know. See here, Dollar Dad and you on the Discord was asking, do you think the Delta variant story is a bit overblown? And it's like, well, so in the United States, we're getting an increase in cases, but we're not getting an increase in hospitalizations and deaths, right? I don't think that that's the case everywhere. But one country that is worth watching and investigating is Australia, right? Because Australia is going back into full-on lockdowns, and they've been in and out of full-on lockdowns. And this is where it's like, is there really a point to the lockdowns when like nobody has it? This is the one that just keeps getting to me. The one that it's like, okay, so in the beginning, there was like, people said, hey, maybe this virus came from Wuhan. And they're like, no, you can't talk about that. We're going to ban you on YouTube. You talk about that, right? We all know that happened. And now that's changed. And they said, well, maybe it did come from Wuhan, right? Well, what was it that they told us at the beginning? The biggest thing. It's almost like everybody's forgotten about it. They said, we need to flatten the curve. We're flattening the curve, so we are locking down to delay and flatten the curve. But then eventually people will catch it, and we'll develop that herd immunity from people catching it. But for now, we need to flatten that curve to then that will save lives, right? Now, if we want to talk about the natural immunity, it's like a big no-no, because then like people might not go and get the vaccine or something. But it seems to me that a complete lockdown all of the time is kind of pointless. It just delays it, and it doesn't you're still going to get tons of cases, and it doesn't seem like that having the vaccine really fixes that either, because the amount of people that you would need to be vaccinated and everything, it seems unrealistic. Do you have any advice for students who aspire to be a quant? So if you want to be a quant and you are in school, I would probably recommend going more into the math, statistics, and mathematical finance sides of it rather than the computer science side of it. If you really truly want to be a quant. I mean, if you go into computer science, then you get a lot of flexibility, right? It's probably a better career choice overall to go into computer science. But if you want to work at Goldman Sachs as a strat, you probably aren't going to get there from the computer science side, unless you go and you get like a master's or PhD. You haven't even gotten to the accuracy of the PCR tests. To be honest, every time that I get into the PCR tests rabbit hole, I find it kind of confusing. But I think that that's just because I don't care. I just don't care. Like here's the thing, is that when you catch it, you'll know. When I caught it, you know, like I knew the symptoms and everything, and I had other things that made me think, well, maybe I've already had it. Nah, that was another coronavirus that I had. But then when I did catch it, I knew what it was. And my wife tested positive for it, and then I got it and I tested positive for it. Like it was it. I'm not so sure that the PCR tests giving false positives is necessarily a problem. Makes all outcomes pandemic that requires authoritarian response from governments. I don't know, man. So I have a little problem with that. Can we call it a conspiracy theory? I mean, it's not really a conspiracy theory, right? It's really because you're not alleging a conspiracy. You're merely stating the fact that it is within the government who wants more power. It's in those individuals' best interests to make the pandemic as big of a deal as possible, to use it to take more power, right? That's true. But I think there's a big issue with this is going to go on forever because the government wants more power, right? And that is that the government and the country as a whole suffers very, very much so from these sorts of actions. And I would point as probably the best examples of this, South Africa and Cuba. In both cases, there have been significant lockdowns. I finally got a hold of my South African friend. In those places, they are not able to get as many vaccinations as they wanted. They closed things down. I think you're going to start seeing in Australia at some point, like it has very negative repercussions on the country, and it results in political unrest as a result. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you really want to gain power, it is a very risky way to do it. And I don't think that any kind of power that you would obtain from doing all of that is sustainable. Eventually, people want normalization, right? So, like, you take all of this power on the premise of saying, well, we're going to make it all better. But then, if it doesn't get better, what's going to happen? You're going to end up like Donald Trump. You're going to get voted out. Right? So it's really not very effective. I really don't think that it's effective in the long run at accomplishing what they want. hope as those kids, politicians, they don't have to worry about the breakdown of society. But it has nothing to do with them. Has nothing to do with them. This is all leaders making decisions with not a whole lot of data here. And I mean, everybody in the world trying to have their opinion on what it should be. And then you're having an issue with whatever decision you make, people disagree with it, whether it was a good decision or not. You can't win. It's like a you can't win kind of a game, right? Like with Donald Trump, it's probably the case that no matter how he decided to handle the pandemic, it would have resulted in hurting him, right? And that's going to be the case for every politician in power, I think, if you don't get over it. So you see that with Johnson in the UK, right? Like, they are, like, this Delta variant is sneaking up on them. But you notice that the UK isn't really reversing course. The UK was like getting to the point where it's like, okay, like now we can like relax and everything, right? If Delta variant comes in, they go into full lockdown again, Johnson looks dumb, right? He's gone. So like you end up destroying the whole country as a result and all of your wealth. Like it just doesn't make sense. But again, the other thing is that from everything we're seeing on the Delta variant, it looks like the Delta variant could have a negative drag on growth, and it could impact people's behavior, as I mentioned in that last video that I made 2 weeks ago or a week ago. But it doesn't appear that it's like the end of the world, that you're going to have lockdowns like you had the first time around. So probably it's the case that, you know, the S&P 500 was pricing in stronger growth than we got, for starters. And on top of all of that, they were overpricing a good number of assets, right? So I think it only makes sense that the market has to pause and come back a little bit, and that come back a little bit ends up being really brutal because of all of the things that were overvalued, right? All of these assets that were basically just retail traders trying to pump the price of it up without much thought behind what they were doing, and now having to puke. What do you think the open is going to be like here? Dum, 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 dum. UK has run out of lateral flow coronavirus tests. Oh dear. Too early to tighten UK monetary policy, says Bank of England's Haskell. They had a pretty good buy event in the Treasury. That's weird. reading through Twitter right now. Oh, you know what? I need to also... Never turned on the text-to-speech robot. You say, we started vaccinating in December 2020. The first Delta variant case was discovered in December 2020. The virus is responding to a vaccination. That's not a very empirical claim, right? You would have to go through, look at all of the data and control for various factors and so forth. How likely is it that the Delta variant came from vaccinations versus something else? Go back and do the traces. There's empirical and scientific ways of going about it, but that is very much conjecture. You need 100 peer-reviewed studies to tell you viruses evolve in response to threats to existence, like literally every living thing on the planet. Well, I don't need an empirical study for everything, but you're making, it's very easy to just claim things, right? How am I supposed to know what the impact that vaccinations have on a virus's mutation rate? What you have is a theory, but where is the backing evidence of it? Because it's different. You're going out, you're doing a scientific study, experiment yourself, you come out with results and you can try and utilize those results from the beginning. But your claim that vaccination rates has a significant impact on the evolution of a virus is an unproven claim. Why do you think we haven't cured the common cold and the flu? Because they were already super widespread in very large variety. Like the thing is I don't necessarily have to have a peer-reviewed study, but I do have to have empirical evidence. I can't just go off of a theory. Like what you're stating is like a good theory. I can think of a bunch of different ways that we could test that hypothesis. Sounds like something that somebody would have done a study on at one time. Let's see here. Scholar.google.com. Vaccination rates on virus evolution. Infectious bronchitis virus evolution and vaccination 2016 by Cambridge. Maybe there are 5 or 6 variants of COVID already? Yeah, but I think that we would have 5 or 6 variations of COVID already, regardless of whether or not we were vaccinating. And we did have variants of COVID well before we had vaccinations. mutation and recombination processes are involved in the genetic and phenotypic variations of infectious bronchitis virus in chickens, leading to the emergence of new variant strains and give rise to virus population diversity to be modeled by the host, particularly by the immune system. The consequence is the continuous emergence of new variants with regard to pathotypes, stereotypes, and protectotypes. What the heck is a protectotype? The viral genes encoding the spike, replicase, and nucleocapsid proteins can be considered the main genomic regions which indicate the evolution process of IBV. Despite the use of vaccination, new IB variants are evolving and circulating in the field and should be considered as initial candidates for vaccine development. The new generation vaccines developed against locally prevailing IBV strains may be more helpful and avoid reversion of virulence in the live vaccine viruses. Understanding the mechanisms underlying the real evolution of IBV has basic relevance and without doubt essential. I don't think that tells us what we want. Doesn't look like any of the studies that I came up with from that search are going to tell us exactly the thing that we want to know, because they're more interested in how does a virus mutate and how do we select, new mutations to create new vaccines out of, and not necessarily the effect that the using a vaccine has on the number of mutations. The issue is that a mutation is a small enough event that I think it would be really, really hard to generate statistical data on something like that, right? There's Win telling you to hit the like button. Thank you very much. How's NPR? Okay, wait. Well, there's a could, but let's read their story. New coronavirus variants have raised concerns about whether vaccines will remain effective against this disease. So far, the vaccines still seem to work, although scientists are keeping a close eye on a variant foreseen in South Africa. But the vaccines themselves could drive the evolution of more mutants. However, NPR science correspondent Richard Harris reports that's not cause for alarm. You may have heard that bacteria can develop better resistance to antibiotics, and in worst case scenario, render the drugs useless. Something similar can happen with vaccines, so with less serious consequences. The worry has arisen mostly in the debate over whether to delay the second vaccine shot so more people can get the first shot quickly. Paul Bienias, as a Howard Hughes investigator at the Rockefeller University, says that gap would leave people with only partial immunity for longer than necessary. They might serve as a sort of breeding ground for the virus to acquire new mutations. That's because the virus is always mutating, and if one happens to produce a mutation that makes it less vulnerable to the vaccine, the virus could simply multiply in a vaccinated individual. But even if that happens, that's only one step in the process. What's unclear and really quite important for the virus to evolve is whether those people having been vaccinated and infected, whether they have sufficient levels of virus replication to pass the virus on to other people. If the vaccine keeps the virus levels low, even mutated viruses, the infected person won't produce enough to spread to other people. Unfortunately, at the moment, scientists can't answer the most basic questions about this process. How much does the virus actually replicate inside the person who has been vaccinated with either one or two doses? How effective is that vaccine at limiting infection, though, so that the virus levels stay low and prevent the spread to other people? Andrew Reed at Penn State University says, whatever the answers may be, a vaccine resistance or escape it's nearly as scary as bacteria becoming resistant to it. Right. I know everybody's worried about it, but I would say history shows us that vaccine escape does not erode to zero. It does not erase vaccine protection. Vaccine may become less potent, but in other cases where this has happened, it still works. It's often got very strong anti-disease properties, so you get less sick even with the viruses that are around. And this evolutionary pressure is present for any vaccine that doesn't completely block infection. So it's not just an issue for people who are between their initial shot and a booster. Many vaccines, apparently, including the COVID vaccines, do not completely prevent virus from multiplying inside someone, even though these vaccines do present. So they're saying they think that it's possible, though they said that it maybe has happened in the past. So I would like a reference for that. I'm just saying vaccinating will drive evolution of less serious but more contagious variants as the virus tries to survive. Well, but I think that I thought that the thesis that you were trying to make is that this is the reason why places with the highest vaccination rates are seeing the highest rising cases, which I don't think is a foregone conclusion. You say Australia screwed up their vaccine rollout? I don't know. There certainly was a lot of places where they vaccinated everybody across the board once and then waited on the second one. But I mean, the crazy thing is that even the one shot appears to be incredibly effective from what the data I've seen. You won't get your sweet data in peer-reviewed studies later next year, though. Okay, but if I'm a policymaker, man, like, right, you can't, like, you have a theory, and if I'm trying to craft nationwide policy, what is it that I'm supposed to use to craft my gut feeling? Right? Or if I was going to trade this, how would I trade it? You know, it's... Overall, I suppose I'm not convinced that the Delta variant is a very wide concern, and I don't think that that's why the market is moving down. I think that if we go through the list of hypotheses as to why the S&P 500 is going down, I think that there's a lot of candidates, and that those all seem to be much more direct than the Delta variant. I mean, for starters, the Delta variant has been rising for several weeks now and has been on the radar for several weeks now, and the market kind of ignored it. So what is it that just happened this weekend? All of a sudden they've decided it's a big deal. Not that you guys are trying to make that that's the case, but... I mean, we have a century of experience with viruses, and it's like they told us not to wear them. I remember thinking, wait, why do people wear masks in the first place? Well, I think that if you're talking about, like, yeah, consistency and honesty, I think that the mask is probably the worst issue to call out, okay? Because here's the thing with the mask is that the research that they had before this and everything suggested that it didn't work. Now, there's certain ways in which those studies and the information that we have that suggested that it doesn't work. This is why it says that it doesn't work. But other countries, Japan, Asian countries that had to deal with SARS and other viruses in the past, right? The masks is not a new thing over there, okay? Like, there was a disagreement on this issue in the scientific community well before this happened, in so much that different countries were responding to the first SARS differently, right? And then what kind of happened, it was kind of funny because I think for some people that weren't paying attention to the news, that the whole "oh, we should do masks" thing was like a big surprise. For everybody, masks was a big surprise, but I had been following the development for almost 2 weeks. Like the day that the masks became a thing, I had been preparing my wife, and she already had patterns and everything ready, and she was making the masks from like literally day one, right? Because it was a slow burn thing. It was like people came in and they said, well, here's some reasons why we think that the mask could be good. And here's where, it comes down to this, and this, and all of these things. And then finally, it was almost like Fauci and the CDC couldn't hold it back anymore, right? It was like he was wrong about that you don't need masks, or at least that masks wouldn't help at all. Seems like he was wrong, and he comes and he claims that he was wrong and he changed it. So I think that that's like the worst one to take. Scientists and doctors say this flu season was not bad because people were wearing masks. They cite this as proof that masks work. What do you think? It's possible, but I would say in that particular case, first of all, that's one theory, and there's probably a couple of different theories that we could propose as to why it happened. But second of all, I'm not convinced that masks alone would reduce it to the amount that it has been. I think that for instance, another theory is that they were catching COVID first and dying from COVID, or that if they got the flu, they weren't reporting it, or it was being reported as COVID. Like, there's a couple of different reasons why that could happen. It's just a pullback on the daily chart. I don't know. This is actually, I'd have to say this is more than that, man. This is probably the biggest pullback that we've had since like August. Like, I think that what we're in is probably like this August, October of last year. This thing. I think that we're kind of in the start of that. I mean, when you just look at the number of days and degree and everything else like that, yeah, sure, we've had these and this and this. We had similar moves like that. This one is a little different. But I think there could be a little bit of a pullback because today's candle is pretty deep. But then I do think that it'll probably go like that. I think there's a lot of reason to believe that the stock market could be going sideways over the next few months. Here's a Yahoo story on the Delta variant. Let's read that. The recent COVID outbreak amongst the New York Yankees baseball team, good grief, Seth, underscores the fact that coronavirus vaccines are not 100% effective, but are still crucial to preventing hospitalization and death. There's a lot of talk about how people are getting COVID anyways, even though they're vaccinated, and that it is true, and that is expected because there's no vaccine that's 100%. So we are seeing these breakthrough cases. Many of them are asymptomatic, totally without symptoms, and they're getting tested as part of contact tracing or screening so that they can go on certain activities where they have mild symptoms. Or they're false positives, or it's so funny because every step of the way there's a couple of different choices. Only one boob. I'm gonna have to start drawing everything in squares because then you can't call those boobs. I don't know. People seem to think the vaccine hesitancy comes from that. The fact that people are testing positive despite being vaccinated. I think vaccine hesitancy was built over the last year of horse crap. Are the robots ready to begin today? Yes, they're already on. Haven't taken one. Normally they would have taken one by now, but it's been fairly restrained. So we shall see. I may have to take a manual trade. In fact, I'll put one of those out over here. And turn on the P&L column. I think that the vaccine hesitancy comes primarily from the fact that it's an mRNA vaccine and that's like a new thing. And so I think that a lot of people feel that, a vaccine normally has to be tested for a very, very long time. And you combine that kind of with everything else. What's ahead for this week? Well, we do get some data this week. So likely to be a little bit quieter of a week, though. Well, after the gamma expires, you got housing index today. This week. Building permits, CB leading index, and then PMIs on Friday. I think that the other thing, though, that's primarily the cause for the vaccine is the government wants you to do it. You know what's interesting, though, is that I don't think that the United States has the highest amount of vaccine hesitancy. Apparently, it's very much a problem in Europe and Australia. Interesting. The two places that have had the most draconian measures surrounding the coronavirus have trouble getting people to get vaccinated. Maybe there's some correlation there. We should do a study on it. Oh, why am I yawning so much? I guess I didn't get a good night's rest, man. Do you ever get those dreams where, like, you're trying to wake up from the dream and you can't, sort of a thing? I had those all night, and I don't understand why. Where's Ace? So I'm wondering if you would have taken a trade in this. Well, probably not, though. What did you eat before you went to bed last night? A hamburger for dinner. I think I need to work out hard today. This leak is going to be Story of the Year. Leak exposes its global abuse of cyber spying weapon to target politicians, activists, and journalists. Oh. Okay, and here's Zero Hedge talking about the Gamma. So in your dream, something is holding you back, keeping you from moving. No, it's not even that. It was just like, for some reason, knew I was sleeping and felt like I needed to wake up. Never felt like something was preventing me from waking up. It's just like you're so deep asleep that it's hard to move. But now me getting sleepy here kind of suggests that bonds up at their highs again. That one was kind of interesting because they went up and then down, up twice, and now new highs. Meanwhile, S&P 500 very quiet. This story about this leak sounds like it's an Israeli technology. Pegasus software licensed by Israel-based NSO Group was used to target phones belonging to two women close to Jamal Khashoggi, a post-colonist murdered at the Saudi consulate in Turkey in 2018. They use that to hack people's phones. Look at that. Bye. That's a very... Okay, and then blocks all the other way. Interesting. It was 35 both ways, so... If it was one guy doing it, he lost money. So it would have been two people. That could maybe be enough to give you a trade. Standing up. There's Ace. How are you? No. Ace, there was so somebody did a market. Somebody bought everything that was being offered at 14. It ticked up. It ticked back down, and then somebody sold everything that was at 13.5. So I was going to say, if it was the same market, if the same person submitted both market orders, that was taking a 1 tick loss. Probably unlikely. And in a situation like that, actually, I'll just show you. I'll just try it. Okay. In a situation like that, you have a pretty good chance of it coming down a bit. Because if there's large sellers out there willing to sell, they're probably going to get more out of their sells. But I don't think you understood what I was saying, Ace. They didn't, the buyer and the seller, yeah, there's a buyer and seller for every trade, right? But we're talking about 2 orders that happened at different times. This could be wrong. Like, so if I get like more big volume coming in long, then I'd obviously want to bail. I'm kind of more interested in the E-mini right now, though. Kind of keeping an eye on them here. So there was a positive buy there, wasn't it? I'm not short any. I don't have any position on. I'm kind of thinking about stocking along, though. Suppose I should wait, yeah. If I really do want to go long. Too close to the open, yeah. It's just normally my robot will take a trade in that first hour, and I'm worried that since it didn't, that I'm gonna have to take one. Oh, I feel so sleepy. Okay. Treasury's still rotating around 13 there. Like I'm having trouble even keeping my eyes straight. I'm so tempted to just click that 66. I can wait. We can wait. There'd be plenty happening there when it opens. Let's make sure we have this down. Make sure we have financial juice turned on. You think you have something sugary to drink? I just don't feel like it's probably that, though. I could go get some Gatorade. Now my cumulative delta over here in this chart is a little screwed up. Let's fix that. There we go. Sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. Well, they took the 12.5. So this is what I was kind of talking about, is like they were able to, well, it took a little trickle at first, but then they were clearing it pretty easily. The liquidity at 12.5 seems worse. Well, it should have taken that long, huh? I don't know. They might sell on the open. They might erase that, so. I'm also making a pretty big bet, betting that they're going to buy the dip. Lots is going on a road trip. Oh boy. You know what? My wife really likes what road trips, and I don't get it. Why would you want to just sit in the car? Will Seth fall asleep before or after the market open? Yeah. Will he fall off the desk chair? Probably won't fall off the desk chair, but. Ooh. Inflation, reflation was dead months ago. Only suckers kept buying into that. Maybe. Wasn't months ago. It was only a few weeks ago, actually. Why would you just want to sit in the car, no floors to vacuum, no errands to run, no ringing telephones away? There's my gen. Okay, so yesterday we were going Pokemon hunting, and the baby did not want to go Pokemon hunting, right? And they're like, my wife and the kids are like, why are you screaming? Why are you freaking out so much? And I'm like, I was so sick of them saying that. I'm like, because he's sitting in the car seat and he can't do anything except for just sit there. And he wants to move around and do things. Yeah, of course he doesn't like it. I was just gonna tell her, like, I'll just stay home. That's what I should have done, because he was such a bell. But it should have been like, here's my phone. I'll watch him. He probably would have been mad if they all went somewhere without him, though. Dum, 30 seconds. I'd be screaming if you oh, you'd be that excited? It's fun. It's a fun game. You know what, though? It's a pointless game. I'll get into it and I'll get a lot of stuff and I'll be like, I want to get my Flareon up to max level and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, except for that, like if you put your Pokemon in the gym, it can get kicked out really easily, and it's really crazy hard to get Pokemon that are actually good at battling. It was just like, oh, there's no actual point to any of this. Okay, so that looks like my trade here in the treasury is mostly at the mercy of the S&P 500 right now. Ninja Trader's dynamic DOM is terrible. Well, that's interesting. Okay. So I'm just going to try and let that run. It looks like so far, so there was some strong selling on the open, but look at the way that buy came through. And there's still some delta to come out. So I think that we might get some strong buying power here, but it wasn't far enough away that it's like for sure they won. So let's just keep an eye on it here. But treasuries ticked down a good tick or two. Yeah, okay, so it looks like the flow is very responsive once it gets below that open, so there's definitely somebody buying it. Oh, okay, and there's new low. Okay, so they're not done fighting it out, huh?
Order filled.
Did you see that? Whew. Too slow. Too slow. Did you hear the little ju? Yeah, there was like a really big buy sweep came through there. I don't know. Despite that big buy sweep, the buyers haven't won out yet, so they could do it. Look, it's a fight. It's a real fight. Okay. Well, buyers made a couple good little moves there. It definitely looks like the buyers are more aggressive. Now look at this. The volume that's trading there at 63 area. Like, that's pretty solid amounts of volume, so. Almost. Okay. So buyers had their day, they pulled it back to the balance area. Now sellers are pushing new lows. Still pretty responsive buying down there, to be honest. You see how my price is like on, at least in the micros, is like oh, geez, you see that? Woo, somebody's buying that. He is very insistent. Do you think he's going to get a new high of the day though, or regular session high rather? That didn't just cause it. No, it wasn't. It was close. Regular, the 72 up there was right off of the opens, so. Okay, now that time the treasury did not fall. Again, they come back to the 65 area again, huh? I have whiplash, says Brett. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling too. I mean, what I'm seeing looks pretty positive for bulls, but it's obviously more complicated than that because there's a real battle going on here today. If the bulls are able to make it to a new high, though, I think that you could see a lot of shorts unwind here, huh? It also looks like even though the buying is really strong, that there is a little bit of a hole like at 42.66, and so they keep getting pulled back into that. So we're back into the area where we were seeing responsive buying, and there it is again. Whew. And they still try and sell that 26 half. Look at that, Dials. Oh my. And he ate that. He ate that. Well, you got what you wanted, sir. Are you happy? That was a good slip. It was a good slip, but it actually held more strong. Oh, okay. More buying, huh? A strong wave of buying, and a big old fatty 500 lot sat there at 42.63 and a quarter, and he took that one on too. My oh my, I don't think I've ever seen a fight quite like this in the E-mini. Well, now sellers pushing new lows. Did sellers just win there? Hard for me to decide if that new low was significant or not. I think I should be a little concerned that the treasuries are still looking pretty strong there, huh? I'd say that the flow there is pretty tepid. There wasn't a lot of volume and stuff, so and it looks like we're gonna almost. We're back to 63 is still where the responsive buying was. And then 65. Next step up the open. There's the open. Okay, there's the open again. Looked a little bit better. Yeah, and the treasury ticked down that time. Now there was some big orders up in the 71 area, so let's see what they do here. Yeah, actually a little bit of defense there, maybe. FX Macro on Twitter says he feels like that was the low in equities for the day. Now we're getting a lot of volume trading in this area again. Can you help me with my robot? Asks Noah Christian. Sure. Now probably isn't a good time though. I don't remember. Somebody I follow on Twitter. So I don't point that out as, oh, they're really authoritative, you should follow them. It's just there's at least one person that thinks that was the low of the day. So, one of the things is that how the market responds to a new low, I haven't been able to find like a clear edge that when it does this and this, that it's likely to continue or not. My theory has always been that if it breaks to new low and it's either like really weak, like only a few contracts trade and then it whips right back up, or there's like hard absorption against it, that those were signals of a reversal. But as I've been tracking it, I'm not so sure that that's the case. But if you tried turning it off and back on, what you should do is you should get on Discord and message me on Discord, and I can see what the problem is that you're having. Just know I won't like write a strategy for you. I've had some people they want me to write it for them. No, but if you're willing to learn for yourself and you need help, you're stuck, then come to me. You completely missed that 300 ticks. Was it 300 ticks in the NASDAQ? Really? Well, I'd say that last little bit of action was very positive for the S&P 500. But look, they're pressuring the open again. It doesn't look like the battle is over. And look, there's the treasury at the highs about to stop me out. Oh, that's okay. I took that trade. The trade that I took at 13. I don't know why I turned it into a 4 ticker. I should have just taken the 1 tick. I would have gotten it. Because what I saw wasn't something to be influential enough to push us down to 11. German 10-year crashes down to the 200-day moving average. Implications for banks, asks the market year. U.S. Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen expresses doubts about the last year's trade deal with China, tweets Bloomberg. I'm wondering if the big boys all made their trades and now they're just sitting here to see how it works out. Oh, you missed the open? Salim? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, they're back into the 62 area, and once again, it kind of looks like responsive buying. I wonder if I come over here and I look at my footprint. Oh my. There was almost... Okay, so there's 18K, 16K traded at 42.65. in the opening bar. That is a lot. That is a lot. I'm not sure what to make of that. I've never seen that before. Like I've seen a lot of volume traded in a spot like that, but it was usually like at the low, you know? But like right just below the open is a little weird. There's another low. That one was only a few ticks so far. And they shove it back up again. Huh. I need to sit down and stop jumping around for no reason around the oven. Well, I mean, it's hard to sit down. You notice I'm not so tired anymore because this action is pretty wild. I'm not sure I've ever seen a fight quite like this one. Oh. I'm going to close that all up on the treasury because they did stop it out. That one sucks. What was the most favorable that I ever got on it, though? Only one favorable tick on it. I have to say, even though I kind of see like responsive buying as we move lower, this last sell was really strong, wasn't it? Did a lot of damage. Look at that. Thousands trading in 53 area. Okay, that was my limit on that one. Maybe I just need to give it some time here. See, the kind of market action that we're getting, I don't think that the robot's going to take a trade. I hope FX Macro didn't all in long. Yeah, well, he was definitely wrong on that one, wasn't he? I don't think it's over yet, though. I mean, look at that. treasury, by the way. Should I try this one? I know I've been screwed over doing this one before. Oof. Well, should I just be short? Okay. So there was a good little dash there. Are you still going to move lower on that one? I guess so. That's not quite what I would expect to happen after something like that. Why are they shorting? I don't know. Good grief, look at that. So there was a bunch of slips down there in that spot. I think so I got to be careful because we don't completely understand why such a strong sell. I mean, we have some theories, but we don't completely understand why. But the way that the liquidity is behaving, that could be a very good, solid reversal. Like you get that kind of liquidity pulling down at the bottom, it's going to be really hard for them to push lower immediately. And the buyers really took advantage of that one. And the thing that I find really odd about this move, should I say odd, is that the buyers never really gave up on it, you know? Like the buyers have been fighting this whole time. Of course, that wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a fairly strong buy impulse come in, and then eventually they peter out and they go back to the lows again. So let's just kind of see. If I come over here and I look at my footprint chart, well, so for starters, this has ended up being a pretty wild bar. Oh, actually, 303,000 in 30 minutes. That is not so crazy. Like that is well beyond what we normally see. But you know, like this is just like the perfect example is that the volume is 306,000, but the delta is only negative 2,500. So despite so much volume coming in and the amount of excursion that sellers have made, the market buys versus market sells is not that far off, only 2,000. Okay, so there was the housing index, 80 versus 82 expected. There's the sellers making their move again. Doesn't look like that one was too successful. Let's see if the buyers can pull it out on the other side here. Nope. Okay, well they're pushing it again. So if this one turns into like another really strong push, I'll be really surprised. Doesn't mean that it has any less probability of happening, I suppose, but I'll be surprised. I think that that's a pretty good excursion on its own. I wonder if we should be reading this fairly even flow, though, as a negative sign, right? Because it seems to be adding fuel to it. You know what I mean? Well, these treasuries don't seem to be backing up at all. How bearish you think this can get? Well, we should start looking for VIX targets, huh? You say the 30-year is gone. Well, yeah, because it's like it's steepening hardcore. Well, the 2 and 10 continues to flatten, but it looks like the curve, especially this end of the curve here, is steepening a bit, which I think makes sense. Huh. I'm not sure what to make of that. Focus. We were on a mission to find out what our VIX targets were. I think, though, well, I need to do it on a 5-minute chart, right? Or no, let's do it on a 30-minute chart. A pretty good excursion. There we go. Oh, okay. 38 was 1. And that should be probably pretty positive for buyers. Oil is dying. I wish I was better at understanding fundamentals. So what's going on there, Kevin, is that OPEC may have had an impromptu meeting over the weekend and made a deal. And that deal increases the baselines for all those smaller countries, which is bearish in the short term. But long term, OPEC staying intact and continuing to have an agreement that is limiting supply should be a good thing for oil. So I think that we should have a negative short term impact today, but like a month from now, hopefully, well, not hopefully, but if you're long oil, then hopefully it'll be positive for them. Okay, so so I was kind of wrong and I was kind of right. So I was saying I would be really surprised if they would be able to move meaningfully away from this low liquidity area that they created in the 48, 46 area. And but they did make a push down that really surprised me. But now we're right back into that liquidity area. So I think I was correct in that it was a low liquidity area to pay attention to and an area that can potentially create a reversal. I was just wrong about how strong the selling is, really. So let's see if it really flips them around. So far, the buyers have been getting. This is probably the longest. Is it the longest? Yeah, this is the longest streak of blue bars of buy bars that we've had here on the 1 minute chart. So that's good for buyers. This might be the panic. I don't know. Like, here's the thing is that, again, here, I'll show you how I was looking at it. Oh, that's not it. Which one is it? It's this one right here. So here's my footprint chart. And you can see there was almost 18, almost 40,000 traded between the two of these at the 65 area. So there was a lot of volume that traded at 65. And the numbers that we got almost all the way down through here are pretty big. 307,000 volume there, but delta only negative 2779. So I'm not so sure that I could consider that panic. Like the liquidity all pulling, buyers completely disappearing, and sellers just slamming into the bids and just the bottom it wasn't like that. It was a move something I haven't really seen in the E-mini before, where there's just tons of volume both ways every step of the way, and then in the end it sells. I don't think this is tradable. Well, certainly not with your standard targets, right? If you're going to trade this, you'd have to probably reduce your size and have a bigger stop. I definitely think the market will drop more than 1.5%. I don't see how firms would buy into this selling. Well, so I think on that one, probably depends on why they're selling, right? So remember that one theory for why we're getting the amount of activity that we are today is that there was a pretty big gamma expiration on Friday. And you often see increased volatility after gamma expirations because people aren't hedged. So people not being hedged could be a reason to come in and sell things in the S&P 500, right? But if that is the case, then coming into like the VIX targets, which is about where we were at, could suggest, maybe that's all there is. I don't know if that's a theory strong enough to take a trade all on its own. I will say there is this 48 area. Well, they've already pushed down here, but the 48 area is definitely something that we could take advantage of, but it seems like to really take advantage of it, we would need to be selling or it would need to reverse, but it's just not doing it. It's really interesting though. I haven't seen excursions like this on so little cumulative delta, So that makes it a really tough read. I would like to see a reversal. I don't know if it's going to happen now. Well, we'll see. $46 is good. We backed away from it awfully quickly, though. Oh, by the way, did I ever... Oh. Wait, what? I forgot. Didn't I have an order to go short there at 15 at one point or something? And I forgot what happened to it, and I was just looking back here, and it looks like that failed. But I was kind of sitting here like, how did I miss that? Look, there's another really strong buy excursion. Oh, geez, really? Do you see that? Well, it's very interesting. Those pushes and the lows aren't really very, you're not getting like the real cascading stop runs like you'd expect. In fact, it's kind of slow. It comes back up. Now it's picking up a little bit of activity now that they've kind of bounced. It's still like a crazy, crazy fight. Look at the treasury. I don't know what I'm doing here, flat. I've just been fighting this for some reason. Why? Well, 38. 38 is a good spot for a bounce. 2. I still think that 48 area is really still looks interesting. We might come back up to that again. Did you not trade any of this, Ace? I didn't see you say anything. Man, oh man alive. Okay, now that is some more capitulatory action. Are you going to go down to 42.10? Is that a real possibility? I mean, the way that they're starting to trade it. But sometimes when it starts to get really fast like that, that's where it like flips. So look at that. They just slice through it like butter. Look at that. I mean, did you have a short that you held on? So now I'm thinking, okay, like we just went through a spot that I would tend to see a bounce, and they just, normally I'll see stops and stuff, happen in there, but they went through that with so much velocity that I do think that there's a really good chance now that we hit the second level, whatever we call it, second target. But I'm also thinking when you get that much action and it ends up turning into a big strong down move, that's the sort of a thing that can lead to a trend day. Oh, he already took his profits. Okay. Well, I did try buying the dip and it didn't work out very well, did it? That's okay. I'm kind of wondering though if I need to do something about my robot, because if with the order flow that we're getting right now, it's not going to take trades. Say that a good portion of that 27 in the 10-year is one order. Though the treasury came back so hard. That's kind of the sort of thing that I think we want to be looking for, huh? Yeah. In fact, I feel so good about that. Oh, it's gonna fail, isn't it? Oh, that sucks. That top there could cause the equities come back quite a bit. I don't know. Like, I guess the reality is I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm just kind of taking big risks because the way that they blew through that 38 was pretty wild. But they are coming back to it now. Like, there's some pretty encouraging bars there for a while. The volume still seems to be quite a bit here. We're still kind of getting these little sweeps. Oh, that last buy looked so good, and it came all the way back. Oh, that's way better. Oh my gosh, you could be kidding me, man. I'm not quite sure I can explain that last little series of ups and downs. It could just be that the liquidity has started to disappear. Wait a second, didn't I? Oh, okay. I think we're okay. Sebastian, hey, thank you very much. Would the Jigsaw Simulator be worth buying if I'm placing orders on the NASDAQ with an average 30 contracts I saw realistically accounted for slippage? Well, so slippage is kind of a different issue, but it definitely simulates the order book a lot better. You don't have to pay for it. You just have to buy the Jigsaw and you get it. And by the way, you don't have to pay the monthly fee if you're only going to be putting in sim orders, which is what I've been doing lately. I'm not going to be trading my live account probably until the micro treasury futures are available. It'd be so interesting to be trading the micro treasury futures right now. But I digress. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that the Jigsaw Simulator is perfect, and I'm not exactly sure how effective it really is for slippage. But it definitely simulates the order book a lot better, especially with like these thick ones like the 10-year. I've seen so many sims they let you do like really brain dead stupid things with the 10-year get away with, where you would be at the back of the queue and they say that you failed. But and I have like a link in video description for an affiliate link. So if you do buy Jigsaw, use that affiliate link. It helps the channel out. Thanks, Gwyn. Oh, it kind of cut it off. Okay, so can they get above 42.41? Yes, they can. So that was a fairly significant win for the trust. So I think that we actually get finally a pivot low on a 5-minute chart here. So that could be really good. We'll see. This is like the what do we call the reversal time period? Huh. People saying stuff to me at work. And I guess 30 minutes is about time. Did you exit that long? I haven't said anything about any of my positions. It looks like I'm going to come out of today with a standard loss. So I'm still I don't know, am I panicking? I think in my mind maybe I'm panicking a little bit because I want my robot to be taking a trade per day, and if this order flow continues, it's not going to do that, right? This is like way too much both ways. You should have announced your short. Well, I think I would have ignored it, honestly. I really thought there was some action there at the beginning that is a really strong signal that you could get longs that run. Right. I think that those signals failing is probably part of why the downside ended up being so ugly. Is like there's some people were really fighting it. Lead a horse to water. Yeah, it's just I think that I was more interested in like a gap fill kind of a trade. Like the risky reversal. See where they go. They kind of look like the sellers are going to try and push it to the lows again. Yeah. See, as soon as you get something that looks really strong on the buy side, and then the sellers take over, and then the seller's excursion just ends up being stronger. Well, we've got 30 minutes. Let's just keep an eye on this. I do think, given the way that the treasuries came back there, especially the 10-year, that we do have a pretty good chance that the worst of it is over. But I guess that doesn't rule out something a little bit later in the day happening. President Biden is speaking. How come I'm not hearing anything on Financial Juice about this? By the way, did Bitcoin do anything during all that? No, they did not. They're still at 3530. Man. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, see the treasury coming down again. They're saying that at the very least, like there was a run on liquidity there, and now it's over. It doesn't mean that it's not fundamentally worth more, but oh, there's another good little buy. Something I'm noticing that's kind of interesting here in the treasury. The moving average doesn't appear to be as effective today, but the pivots are. When it pivots, it seems to be really going. So I don't think that there's anything predictive about those, but I think it suggests to me that there are buyers trying to buy the dip. It's like as soon as they get something that even half looks like maybe the selling is over, you see the buyers just pour in. I feel like he's doing a decent job. Biden? Are we talking about Biden? If you're talking about Biden, I want to know what makes you think that Biden is actually responsible for anything that he's doing right now. Okay. So once again, like there was a really strong buy, they bought in, and then the sellers came in and they were stronger. The cumulative delta is still high. Its cumulative delta is still buy. My bar is set pretty low. Good grief days. That kind of sounds like cutting your nose to spite your face. Not declaring war. Donald Trump never declared war. In fact, Donald Trump had several situations where he could have been much more aggressive than he was. But he seemed to in the end, he actively avoided war. Even when he had like the biggest war hawk ever. That didn't last very long. A good U.S. president is not a good U.S. president. I don't know about that one either. The issue is that so often we associate effective politics with legislation, and that's not what the president does, right? Where a president is going to be good is setting the national direction and foreign policy and those things in particular. You know, and in those respects, I would say I don't think that we've really had a good president since Bill Clinton. Should I say good? I should say a strong president since Bill Clinton. Not paying a porn star for sex hush money? I wouldn't be so sure about that one either. Okay. Buyers pushing back is looking pretty good again. Like, well, I think they would have to get like above 45 before I'm really convinced the buyers have something. You can see that 45 that there's like a bunch of liquidity up there. I wait for evidence. The thing is that there's actually plenty of evidence to suggest that there are like skeletons in Biden's closet, but I don't know if anybody's ever going to dig for them. But this is just like one of those things that like really drives me crazy, is that this I'm going to lump you into like a group with a bunch of other people, but people that care about things that just don't matter. Like that the president paid a porn star for sex. Who cares? Why should I care? It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. Okay. Bill Clinton like literally raped a woman and then tried to cover it up. Okay, and Congress did a whole investigation about it and everything. Did it really matter to US policy in the end? No, it did not. That's why the Republicans ultimately kind of suffered from that whole fiasco, because it was irrelevant in the larger scheme of things. That, and the Republicans did their own kind of Newt Gingrich's infidelities coming out like really hurt that one too, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, if I was to come in, like, that's what bothers me about it, is if I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, how good is the president doing? Well, let's look at some policies that they've enacted and the results from them. Well, he basically said everybody in South America should come here, and we have an unprecedented border crisis that the news still doesn't talk about, but we have more people coming across the border than we ever did. It dwarfs what happened while Donald Trump was president. Nobody ever talks about that. Do you think that was an effective decision? I don't think it was. Right? What else? Oh, Biden wants to implement a $3.5 trillion budget. Well, I don't think that one's going to happen. Citation needed about him saying everyone. Well, we can go and find those citations for sure. He didn't say everyone should come here. Well, of course, he didn't say it in those words, but I think it is without question that Biden's comments, especially while he was running for office, in regards to immigration, has led to a mass number of people coming. There's no question about it. Right? Do you? If you doubt that one, I think you're not paying attention. But I was using hyperbole. Come on, here's come to that 45 area. Okay, so he wants to do an infrastructure deal. Let's see if he gets the infrastructure deal. See, if Biden gets the infrastructure bill, I don't think that the other bill will pass. But if, let's say that they get the infrastructure bill, that would be a feather in his cap. That would probably be the first feather in his cap. Because I think that almost everything else that he's done policy-wise has been a complete disaster. Words matter. That's a load of shit, Ace. You know that you would use hyperbole and you would use any kind of words like that when it seems to support your argument, just like anybody else. Don't try and pretend like you're better than anybody, because you'd absolutely do it. Here's what I would say. Don't let words get in the way of communication. When you start letting words get in the way of communication, what we know is that you aren't arguing in good faith. You know, so somebody that is really disliked by the left, and I find it really odd how much they hate this guy, but Jordan Peterson is just wild how popular he has become. And you want to know why he does such a good job? It's because he argues in good faith. Like, when these people come and they ask him questions, and some of them really pose him with really difficult questions, and he comes up with really, really great answers. Like, he is a smart guy. You have to admit that at the very least. But what he does is he gets to the essence of what they're trying to say, and he argues the point that they're trying to make, and not necessarily the point that they made, by being pedantic about the language. You get what I mean? Like, watch that and see how effective he is at that, and then turn around and say, okay, well, what Seth is trying to say is that Joe Biden's immigration policy has been a disaster, and that his messaging on immigration policy has made it worse, and not that he told everybody to come, because that's hyperbole, right? Then you have a much better argument. But I think the reason that you're saying that is because you don't really have an argument, right? You know that Joe Biden's immigration policy has been a complete effing disaster, and you don't have any way to argue that it's okay. So you try and nitpick on words that are used instead, because you don't have a real argument. He is as dumb as Deepak Chopra. I don't know who that is. He is a wishy-washy. Well, that can happen too. And it's not like every opinion he's ever held has been golden, but he is very, very effective at what he is. He is probably one of the greatest intellectuals of our day. Like, 50 years from now, I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest intellectuals of our day, like on the level of like Milton Friedman. No joke. Okay, well, we'll see. I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest intellectuals of our day. But he will. Let me qualify that. He will be held in the same esteem that Milton Friedman is, which is to say that Democrats will probably still hate him, but he will be admired and talked about long after he's gone. I don't know who Benny Hill is either. Like the fact that all of the people that you're naming are people that I've never heard of before, but you know who Jordan Peterson is, just kind of highlights the point, doesn't it? But the point wasn't that Jordan Peterson is a great intellectual. The point was that why does the way that he talks and argues with people is so effective? Because he argues the point that they're trying to make. You would be surprised if they don't cancel. Well, they've been trying to cancel culture him. That's the thing. That's kind of how he started, right? Was that he came out as a free speech advocate. And they tried canceling him. And every time that they do, he just has better arguments. Is he still battling cancer? I thought it was that he had I didn't know that he had cancer. I thought that it was that he had... he was on some sort of pain medication and it led to a crippling addiction, and he really went through a terrible time with that, and now he's just only barely coming back into the public eye again. The intellectual dork web. Well, Stephen Fry is, let's see here, Stephen Fry is a leftist guy. He's really smart too, right? Let me see if I'm thinking of the right person. Oh yeah, Stephen Fry. He is kind of more left leaning, and he is a very smart guy. He is absolutely on the. I don't think that he will be remembered quite the same, but he is absolutely on that level. I don't think that Ben Shapiro should be there, though, to be honest with you. So, like, the thing with Ben Shapiro seems to be good at making arguments to his own audience, but he's not very effective at making arguments to the other side. And I don't really think that his opinions are really his. I think that he's really good at playing Ben Shapiro is much more comparable to Rush Limbaugh, right? Like Ben Shapiro is probably will inherit Rush Limbaugh's mantle if he was on radio or something, which he's not, but he probably gets just as much reach. Is just an angry man. So on that, I think what you would find is that people on social media, people in Ben Shapiro's industry, tend to act angry and play it up because that's what gets attention and views. Well, that wasn't the point. The point was, I think that we should focus on on a president's actual policies. Like what are the actual policy impacts? Now, if a president comes in and they do something like they rape a woman, like happened with Bill Clinton, and then try to cover it up, and it hurts their agenda, then that certainly becomes relevant, right? But in the end, it's still about what was their net impact. Bill Clinton was a very effective president, right? George Bush was actually a very effective president too, in that, they made a lot of legislation before 9/11 and then they did a bunch of stuff after 9/11. I think that George Bush, though, was a different situation because even though he was a strong president, an effective president, he was effective the wrong way. He did things that really hurt the country in the long run, right? I am completely unaware of the actual immigration policy of the current administration. Okay. So then let's make that the point instead then. People have been misinformed about what is going on. They are focused on all of these things. There's this game. Look, it's a game, really. In the end, politics, it's a game, right? And there is a game, and the game is this. It is your attention. What they can do with your attention is everything. Everything. And if you are focused on that Donald Trump paid hush money to a porn star, something that probably half of the politicians in DC do, by the way, and not what has Joe Biden done on immigration, then you've fallen for it. You have allowed them to manipulate your attention to your detriment. To your detriment. This is so hard to not read. The evidence appears to show to me that Bill Clinton is a rapist, but what do you think is disastrous about Biden aside from immigration? Okay, so the other thing that bothers me about Joe Biden is his foreign policy decisions. He came in and was like, I'm going to be so tough on Russia, right? He was going to be so tough on Russia, but then he lets them build that pipeline. He lets them build the pipeline over there that the Russians have that's going to give Russians a lot of money and power. And then he cancels the pipeline over here in the United States. Like, how does that even make sense? You cancel the pipeline here in the United States because it's bad for the environment? Then why didn't you say anything about the pipeline in Russia? Why you let the pipeline in Russia go through? Right? And when I look at what's going on with the foreign policy in the world right now, it seems to me like the dictators of the world, well, let's not say the dictators of the world, let's just say China and Russia, think that they can push them around. You know that this last weekend that Russia was running drills 35 miles off the coast of Oahu, and that their military drill was sinking a U.S. carrier? You think that they would have done that when Donald Trump was president? Because that seems like a problem to me. Is actually something we haven't talked about, but we really should. But one of the things that I was reading in the news squawks and the news and everything was that tensions between the U.S. and China seem to really be ratcheting up. No. The drill was sinking. I don't know if they actually sunk a boat or not, but that was the scenario that they were wargaming out, was sinking a carrier 35 miles off the coast of Oahu. Like, come on, tell me that's not a signal, right? Biden doesn't have a clear mindset. When I look at him, I don't feel like he presents much power. Yeah, well, I think that when people look at him, they think that he's not in charge, right? That's certainly, I mean, I think they did a poll and they said that like 50% of people don't think that Biden is actually in charge. And that includes like a really high portion of Democrats. You have no clue. You really should pay attention, man. It's hard for me to know how, below the radar the things that I read on the news are to other people. To me, it's like that stuff is happening. Why are people not saying anything about it? I'm particularly concerned about the the rhetoric coming out of China and Russia. Talking about the ship dress. Okay, so what happens is countries will do something called war games, military drills, and they will practice scenarios. And those scenarios are in part, well, not in part, a big part of that is getting their soldiers ready for potential scenarios that could come up, like if they ever needed to destroy a U.S. carrier. But they also use these as signals to other countries. So what we have these days is, instead of like having actual military conflicts, we just do drills to upset each other. So before, it was the United States was doing drills in the Baltic Sea, right? Remember that whole thing? And then Russia was like, well, you can't come in here. And Joe Biden backed off, right? Well, this last weekend, it was that China was running military drills off the coast of Oahu. And the drill was that they were practicing sinking an aircraft carrier, which I think is a pretty... No, I'm asking about how an oil drill... No, not a drill like something that drills into the ground, a drill like an exercise. Is that... Yeah, okay, now you understand. Okay, so the China is basically trying to give this signal to the US that, like, we'll blow up your carriers, is basically what they're saying. And I'm just asking, do you think that China would be willing to do that if Donald Trump was president? I heard our carriers are unsinkable, then I heard China has a weapon so fast we can't defend against it. Well, China has a weapon. How that weapon would fare against our carriers is, I think, an open question. But I think it's a reason for concern for sure. If it turned out that China's weapons were very effective against our carriers and all of our carriers were sitting ducks, can you imagine how big of a problem that would be? Oh, man. Yeah. So... from what I'm reading, that a lot of people that are like experts on this thing are saying, like, the Taiwan thing, like China invading Taiwan, that it is like a foregone conclusion that China is going to do it at some point. Just kind of shocking, right? But it sounds like they are just outright, they're going to do it. So there's that. It's like a World War III scenario on our doorsteps. And I'm just asking, are you confident in Joe Biden's ability to deal with that? Are you happy with how the Biden administration has dealt with those happenings so far? And more to the question, does it concern you that this stream might have been the first time that you heard of anything about any of that? That, like, World War III, there's some experts that think that World War III is like a dangerous possibility right now, and you haven't heard anything. Like, what would you think if World War III literally started tomorrow? Would you feel like blindsided? So this is where I'm saying I kind of feel like those things matter more than whether or not the people that Joe Biden has paid a hush money to have come out and said anything yet. People have been telling us, I'd say that we're closer today than we've been in the past. Surely not as close as we were during some of the Cold War days, but during the Cuban Missile Crisis, for instance. It's up there. Okay, guys, I gotta get going. So it does look like I took a loss today. See, but that's okay because they're little losses, and I need to take a day trading, and I don't know. It could be the case that the market action is just coming to a place where my algorithm is not going to do well, and so I'm just not going to pass a combine. That's okay. All right. Hey guys, I gotta go. Stay profitable, friends.